In Minecraft, my favorite types of traps tend to be explosive traps. But the one thing I tend not to like about them is that they usually blow up the entire trap, making it so you have to either rebuild everything or just move on. Because of this, I wanted to try to design a trap that used explosives but could be reused. And so I came up with this tunnel trap that I just showed you. The way it works is that there is a tunnel, which when you walk through it, the ceiling will open and the ends will close. And in the ceiling there's water and also explosives. And therefore the water will flood the tunnel and the explosives will ignite and fall into the tunnel, killing the player. Now the way that this specific tunnel activates is by a piece of redstone ore in the floor of the tunnel. That piece of redstone ore, when it activates, will cause a piston to update, and then that piston updating will cause it to extend because the piston is powered up here, and it's also powered in such a way that the power itself doesn't cause an update. When that piston is retracted, it powers an external circuit, so when it extends it will depower that external circuit and also depower its own powering. And that depowering as well will happen in such a way that the piston is not updated. Therefore, whenever the redstone ore block turns on, essentially by becoming lit, the piston will extend, and whenever the redstone ore then turns off, the piston will retract. This external circuit that piston powers four different things actually. So it comes over here and powers this torch. Up here it powers this line of pistons which extends along the whole ceiling, and through this torch it powers this ceiling, and it also powers this torch on the other side. So when that piston extends, all that redstone gets depowered, which causes this torch to light up and these pistons to extend, sealing off this end of the tunnel. Causes this torch to power these pistons to extend and this end of the tunnel to be sealed off. And it also causes these pistons here to retract because they become depowered, opening up the ceiling of the tunnel. Now this redstone also powers that block, powering this torch, so when the piston extends it'll also cause this line of redstone to turn on. So if we load up our water and TNT here, we have a set trap. So once someone walks through, if they activate the redstone ore on the floor here, they'll be sealed inside and TNT will drop on them and they'll die. Unless they have like a full set of diamond armor or are at full health with a full set of iron armor. Now there are a few disadvantages to this trap. The first here is obvious. There's dripping water, so anyone who's looking out for this type of trap will notice there's water across the entire ceiling here and probably not walk through. The second is that the player who designed the trap might still want to be able to get through here and might want to have some sort of override, which there isn't for this. And the third is that even though the trap doesn't destroy itself, it still needs requires the player to come back and manually reload everything in order for the trap to be able to be set off again by another player. Because of all this, I've designed sort of a deluxe version of this trap over here. Now this trap starts with the same tunnel. It has the same, here, there's the redstone ore in the center. There's the piston, which is next to that redstone ore. Under the piston's retracted state, the attached block is over a torch. That torch then powers this redstone, which powers the piston in turn. So we have the same setup there. That redstone also powers this external circuit, which comes up here, and also through this repeater comes down to this redstone down here. That redstone powers the torch, which controls the end pistons, and the same is true at the other end here. So we have the same setup essentially, but there are a few differences. The first is that this line of redstone up here actually powers 2 rows of pistons. What that does is it makes it so when we add in the water here, that water does not drip through the ceiling, because there are 2 rows of blocks here that the pistons are holding back. The second major change is that there's these torches added out here along with repeaters. What that does is it allows for an override function like this. So placing a torch there causes that torch to depower, causing that torch to power. Which causes this piece of redstone to power, powering these repeaters, which powers all this redstone. So this external circuit, which can be powered by the piston being in its retracted state, can also redundantly be powered by a torch being placed here. And the same is true on the other side. Alright, so just to show the contrast in normal function, I can update this piston back here, and when I do so, we will see that the ends of the tunnel closed as we expected, and also the ceiling opened up. Now, if we deactivate the piston and remove the torch, or sorry, and place the torch, say here, now when we update the piston, nothing will change except for the piston itself. And so we can let the piston deactivate and then remove the torch, and it'll be like nothing happened at all. So a player who wanted to build this trap but still be able to get through it could just place the torch on one end, walk through, activating the redstone ore, place the torch at the other end, come back, remove this torch, go through and wait for the redstone to turn off, and then remove the other torch. Alright, so the third major change to this is the auto-loading function. Now, the way the TNT is ignited on this trap is by this row of powered blocks. And but in order to have an auto-load function, you have to have pistons that'll push the TNT into place. And so those are these pistons over here. So what happens is you load up all the TNT in here, leaving a gap at this end, and then when it's time for the TNT to detonate and fall into the tunnel, you just have these pistons push out. Normally, what you want, or a typical way to have an autoload function, is to have gravel then stacked up above the first block here of these pistons. And then when the pistons retract again, the gravel will fall into place, and the next time the piston can just push out the gravel, pushing the TNT, and so on. But I didn't want to have this thing be that large, you know, have all this TNT and then have all this gravel going up into the sky. I wanted it to wrap down around the tunnel. So instead of having gravel, I decided to use cobblestone generators. And so what that needs is kind of 2 troughs, one there and one here. This is a double level trough where the water source goes here, and then it can fall into a trough down there and not spill everywhere. So I place these water source blocks here, and lava source blocks down here. And you can see that the lava flows into the gap above the pistons at the bottom, forming cobblestone. Then we would load in the TNT here, and then once these pistons down here push up, it'll push into the way these pistons up here, which can then push it over and send it to be ignited. Normally I'd want the TNT to be here, but unfortunately these embers have a small chance of coming up and igniting TNT that's on that row, so I'm actually going to put a second row of cobblestone up here, like that, and then we can go through and load our TNT. We want this gap here to be empty, again because this is going to push up and then this is going to push out. So we'll leave it empty like that. Then just continue loading the TNT in. Alright, so that's what it looks like completely loaded. There are 7 loads of 9 TNT, which makes it take up 63 pieces of TNT. And the way this works is when that piston extends, it depowers this redstone, which will depower these repeaters, powering all these torches, which then power these pistons, causing them to extend. Then going through these torches here and that torch up there, that line of redstone line of sandstone has redstone on top. So then after 2 ticks, those pistons will extend. So these pistons will push the TNT in front of these pistons. Then those pistons will push the TNT into that line of sandstone, which is powered by redstone. And after that, the TNT and water will fall into the chamber and detonate, killing the player unless they're wearing full armor. So we can activate all this by doing that. See, there was an explosion. Indeed, this piston pushed up and now it pushed out, pushing the TNT into place. And then when it turns off, the same happens as usual. You can again activate it. There's an explosion. And then it's still again ready for the next victim. Alright, so that version over there was 6 blocks wide and 8 blocks tall because it had to go 2 blocks below the bottom of the tunnel, or the bottom of the ground I should say. This one only goes 1 block below, so even though it looks like it's 10 by 10, it's actually 11 wide and 10 tall. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's a bit bigger, but I think it's better. Ideally, both of these traps would be placed down near the bedrock level because that's where you find most redstone. But yeah, other than that, it's probably a pretty good trap. Alright, thank you for your time.